You know every time we speak, it's no apologies. This is Wicklow Healthcare Advisory, presenting industry insiders, brought by Bill Murray. He help you in a real hurry. From ownership to healthcare, he an advocate, teaching you how to buy and sell practices. From CPAs to attorneys, all guests, here to help you with your goals. You never know who's on next. This is Wicklow Healthcare Advisory. Let's go!
Let's go! All right, everybody, welcome. We are on episode 6 of Industry Insiders, Wicklow Healthcare Advisory's podcast that introduces you, the practice owner, dentists, veterinarian, medical doctors, into industry people, professionals, and companies that can help you manage your business more efficiently. Whether you are looking to establish your business, scale your business, or exit your business, we're introducing you to people that can help you along the way, professionals and companies that provide services tailored to you, the practice owner. And today's guest is great. I've been trying to get her to come on for months. She finally found some time in her busy schedule to accommodate. So we're very happy today to have an individual from Live Oak Bank. We'll talk a little bit about lending here today. And as you can tell through the first 5 episodes, if you've been following along, we're introducing you to people that can help provide services and functions to help your office either establish itself, manage itself, or exit it in the right way. And Live Oak Bank and lending in general is one of those things that everyone needs and requires in order to start a business, right? For the most part, unless you come from a very wealthy family who's willing to write that $1 million check, you're looking into banks and lending when you are establishing your business and then throughout your career. What's really nice about the healthcare industry is that your access to capital is very robust. Every bank wants to lend to dentists, veterinarians, and medical doctors, every single one. Some of them have specialized units, some of them have specialized divisions, some of them have tailored products and services. And one of those lenders is Live Oak Bank. I've actually known of Live Oak Bank for years. I knew them predominantly, 20 years ago as a very large lender in the veterinary industry. But over the course of those decades, Live Oak Bank has really come into play initially as really an SBA lender, but really now has a focus on all of small businesses and a very large healthcare vertical. So today we're going to introduce you to Brandy Keck. Brandy Keck, come on in. Great to see you. Brandy is the managing director of Live Oak Bank's small business banking and lending division. So Brandy manages a bunch of different verticals. One of those verticals is healthcare. So Brandy, welcome. It's great to have you on. Great to see your smiling face here on a nice morning.
You as well. Kudos on the first 5 episodes. I've been following along. Fantastic.
Thank you. You're the one. That's great. We appreciate that. Looks like you're at Live Oak Bank headquarters there down in Wilmington in the Carolinas. Is that right?
That is true. I am in our sweet podcast booth. You got to come check it out sometime.
Live Oak Bank is pretty awesome. I had the opportunity to see your facility a while ago, and it was amazing how tech forward. When you think of banks and you think of like online banking, and every bank has a tech focus. But when I walked into the headquarters of Live Oak, it was very, very apparent that you guys spend a lot of time and effort into bringing a technology focus a part of your business. So the fact that you have a podcast room is it's not surprising.
I sound like a dork when I talk about Wilmington, North Carolina, and Live Oak, so I won't go on about it too much. But yeah, pretty cool spot. Pretty fun to be here, and definitely
awesome.
tech forward.
So Brandy, talk to us a little bit about, everything that Live Oak Bank does. Obviously this is, we're focused on healthcare practitioners, dentists, vets, and medical doctors that are, in most cases when Live Oak Bank is working with them, it's either they're establishing or scaling. So can you talk a little bit about Live Oak Bank, what they do, and then your history there? I know you've been there for a while, and what you and your teams do to assist practitioners that are establishing and scaling their businesses.
Yeah, so pretty cool background for Live Oak, specifically in the healthcare space and even more specific in the vet world. So Live Oak started and established itself strictly as a veterinary-only bank back in 2007 and heading into 2008. So for a long time, we were affectionately known as the doggy bank. It was the only industry that we were lending to, which is pretty cool. At this point, we are one of the largest SBA lenders in the country. We've got about 37 different industries that we lend to, all vertical specific. Two of the major ones that's a part of that would be healthcare and vets, so physicians and dentists and veterinarians, and truly focus on small business, so private practice owners that are looking for financing for their business, startups and established. I would say a niche within the niche for us would be commercial real estate projects. So a lot of times when we're getting involved, it's when the dentist, veterinarian, physician wants to own the real estate, whether that's a ground up project, buying a building, buying a condo. We do other projects as well, but that's really our sweet spot in what we do, and then try to help these healthcare professionals scale. And we stay with you for the life of the loan, or as long as you'll hang out with us, and really try to establish a really strong relationship within the partnership of that individual transaction, but also have a really strong pulse within these industries. So we spend a lot of time, money, education, really understanding the intricacies of these industries. And just to side note on that, specifically in the vet space, I mean, we have board members such as Dr. Glenn Hofsis, who was the dean at Ohio State, Lincoln Memorial, Florida. He's now at Arkansas State. We have Dr. Carol Hart on our staff as well. She's a veterinarian and an attorney. So we try to have specialists within our organization to help all of our borrowers really achieve their dreams.
Amazing. One of the things I've always had when I was a competitor in the banking world in my previous career, we would always get the SBA rankings, right? We would see, so for those of you listening that haven't worked at a bank, the SBA, the number of units and the amount of financing of banks do, that is all available to every bank and every person to see because they're government loans. So, you get that data every year. And I remember when we started our veterinary lending unit at B of A, looking at the rankings on SBA and seeing this small, tiny little bank, Live Oak Bank out of Wilmington, North Carolina, leading the charge like every year. And then I went to my first like VMX in Western, and Live Oak Bank was everywhere. So when you talk about investment, it's not just about the marketing. You guys like really invest in the verticals that you service, and that was very apparent from the VBMA. I remember back in the day, you guys did a lot of work with the VBMA, a lot of work with a lot of the organizations. So you really do, like, what I've always liked about Live Oak is that you really put your money where your mouth is. When you say you're in an industry, you are a really major part of that. So that's great. You mentioned, one of the things I took away from that introduction to Live Oak is that, primarily, I think in the past, everyone has kind of thought of Live Oak as a real estate lender. Oh, if you're buying a big piece of real estate or doing ground up construction, Live Oak. But that's not all that you do. So can you talk a little bit about the products that you guys lend into to someone who's either establishing or scaling their business?
Yeah, I mean, I think we do what others don't. We've got a very big portfolio and a lot of experience in this industry, and we can do some things that the others may not be as interested in. So larger startups that are leaseholds, those types of scenarios, established practice owners that want to scale quickly, do multiple locations in a relatively short period of time. Those are things that we do. We've fortunately been a part of quite a few scale-ups to get them to the point of selling off to a DSO, or affectionately VSO, whatever the term would be in that world. So really trying to help practice owners scale quickly is a big part of our world as well. And specialists. We like equine. We like specialty ER, vet derms. Same thing on the dental side, and medical for that matter. We've got a pretty big medical portfolio, and we're getting deeper and deeper into certain specialties and making sure we understand inside and out and can create some pretty cool products for them.
That's great. So I learned something there. So it sounds like you have created some verticals within the organization. So if a dentist or a veterinarian is buying real estate and needs that type of a loan, that's kind of like any of the Live Oak Bank bankers can really focus on that. And that's like a fastball right down the middle for you all, right? But then you have this other part of the bank that is helping doctors scale. So like one of the things that I think is frustrating to practitioners that want to own multiple practices is that sometimes they feel a bit handcuffed by the traditional lenders that they've been working with, right? So they get with a conventional bank, they're getting, the rates are really good and the terms are really good, but then all of a sudden it's like, hey, you've hit 5 million or you've hit 10 million, we're going to get a little bit more scrutinized in your business, which I think it can be good, but it also sometimes those handcuffs are a little too stringent. And I have had clients that have used Live Oak for scaling, and these are really great risks and really great loans, and you guys do them really well. So you have a team that focuses on that. Is that correct?
Yeah, it would head outside of my world and my team. We've got, we go upstream. We've got a DSO division here that is very strong and really well placed in the industry as well. So yeah, we want to be a part of the scale. Ideally, you run out of SBA exposure, you're now 3 to 5 locations or more, and you want to get to the 30, 50 and sell off. And we want to stay with you the whole time. And there are teams within this team to keep working with you as you keep going. It's a big part of our world and part of our growth.
That's fantastic. Tell me a little bit, so what is your, managing director running the whole thing, female leader, which is fantastic. I have 2 daughters. I'm so happy that to see lenders, making sure that they have a diverse,
Yep.
group of leadership. I think we see too many of the guys on the board and not enough women, females, and minorities. So fantastic for you and good for Live Oak for doing that. Tell me a little bit about your day to day. Like you've got a real big job with a lot of responsibility. What does that look like?
It's a real cool job too, and it's a lot of fun. I've been in the dental medical vet space for 16 years. Wasn't the original plan, but here I am, and it's been fantastic since stepping into this world. So I've done some different roles here, but my role now is to really manage a larger team. So there's a dental medical team, there's a vet team, and there's a couple other industries in which I'm a part of. But really, it's about growing and scaling this business and figuring out how do we offer more products and services specifically to the dental medical vet industry, and how do we keep this thing being viable and successful. If we're not taking care of the industry and being a part of where it stands today, we can't be a part of where it's going in the future. So as much as, I've got a sales team, and we've got numbers on our head and all of those things, it's really about figuring out ways to help grow this industry and help it be fruitful in the future. So honestly, that's a big part of my world as well, is trying to figure out how we keep these spaces really strong and what they need to grow.
And it's one of the endorsements I would give is it always does seem that you guys are at the forefront of the next thing. An example I could give of that is pet care facilities, right? Like you have been and are like one of the only lenders that has figured out pet care facilities. So these are for our listeners that don't know, like if you have a boarding grooming facility, it doesn't necessarily have to be owned by a veterinarian unless they're offering veterinary services. But a boarding grooming facility, it's like, you might have that veterinary office that you go to, and then right down the block, you've got that huge boarding facility and grooming facility that's there, the daycare facilities. And Live Oak was one of the first to kind of get into that space and really has figured it out. So, and it's funny, I was talking to a friend at another bank recently who brought up pet care facilities, and it was just like, and without even being prodded, said, yeah, I mean, Live Oak's doing them for years. It must be good. So you guys do have that. People do watch what you do. Your competitors do notice and watch. All right, well, where's Live Oak going next? Because you tend to be on the forefront of those next things in healthcare. How do you go? How do you do that? Like, how do you strategize? Don't give a look under the hood, right? But like, there does seem to be a very focused effort at Live Oak to make sure that you're staying ahead of the pack and leading the other banks into these other verticals.
You know how many times I've talked to you about pet care facilities, because I think this is freaking amazing. Yeah, it wasn't me though. A couple of our founders, Brian Falk and Vince Daly, who were very involved from the inception of Live Oak Bank and brought vet lending to here. So they were 25 plus years at other banks prior to here. They saw the need. they saw that there certainly were these veterinarians that were getting into the pet care space and adding boarding and daycare and those types of services. But there was also this ancillary group that was non-vet owned looking to get into this industry. So we started playing around with it. I think, it may look happenstance. It's not. Live Oak is very strategic in what we do. We bring on experts in these fields, hire them on as part of our staff, and then we do a lot of due diligence and research and data-driven discussions before we move forward with anything. And that was the case with pet care facilities. So really, I'd say 2017 is probably when we got way heavier involved in the pet care space, and it has just flourished. And to be honest with you, if these things are run properly and successfully and efficiently, the margins, top line, bottom line, are very similar to a veterinary practice. So they can be wildly successful, and there are opportunities for growth and scale, similar to the DSO model exists in pet care facilities. COVID helped launch that a lot further. The industry started booming from there, and it really hasn't slowed down. So yeah, we really love that space as well, and we help veterinarians understand when and how to incorporate that business model, because it's certainly not for everyone. And if it's not done properly, it can hurt the vet practice, which obviously you don't want to have happen. So yeah, we love the space, but very diligent in what we do and why we're in it.
That's excellent, and really good to hear that you guys are always thinking about new things and leading, being a leader in innovation and lending. It's funny, like when you think about lending and banking, it's not like, you don't think of like, oh, they're tech forward and they're leaders in innovation, but there is banks generally don't love to just do a big cannonball in the deep end of the pool into a new vertical. It's dabbing your toe. And it's funny, I think that some people would look at Live Oak and say, well, they're just, because it's government-backed loans, they're just jumping in everything. That's not the case. You put a lot of thought around the product, you put a lot of thought around the risk, and you really do your due diligence. So if you're jumping in the deep end of the pool, know that you have to know that you've done a lot of work to make sure that was the right risk for your company, your shareholders, and it's a good investment to make.
I mean, there's a beauty and a curse into being one of the largest SBA lenders in the country. It's great that you're government backed, right? But that's a lot of eyes on you, and we can't mess this up. So if we're doing bad deals or we're putting borrowers in a negative position, we're going to hear about it very quickly, and we're going to have problems making additional loans in the future. So we're very guarded in what we do and how we do it, and making sure, I know I've said this multiple times, but making sure that these industries are successful and that we're not misstepping. We do very large loans. It's larger than the average dental, medical, vet conventional lender. There's real estate involved. These are big transactions. These are a lot of times massive expansions. The monthly payment is much larger than what they were paying for before. We need to make sure that they can actually take on this debt, and it's a successful endeavor. It's not worth anyone's time of doing. So yeah, we're pretty thoughtful in that stuff. And the other piece that I would add to that, we've got a group here affectionately called the BAG. So they are our baggers, business analyst group. They're relationship managers, so they are working with our borrowers from the day they close until they leave us, and they are collecting data nationwide on all of our borrowers. So we've got a really strong pulse on our portfolio, and we share that data with our borrowers. Not specific information to any practice, but we want to be able to help with benchmarking, fee services, where certain services or procedures wherever are going. We want to have that information out there to help. So the more vets, dentists, physicians we have on our portfolio, the more we're sharing that information back. And the BAG is a fantastic resource for our borrowers as well, and staying in touch and keeping a pulse on the industry as well.
It's not just getting the loan and running off. You actually have people that are there managing the relationship, bringing data back and forth, and being a real partner for someone to lean on. And you guys do a really good job. Like on those large projects, you mentioned large projects. Like when I think of Live Oak Bank, I think of these big ground up construction, big real estate. You're buying some dirt and you're going to build the facility of your dreams. You're relocating down the block to a ground up construction project. You guys do a really, like that's a very hard project to finance. Like with my banking, like, we had a tough time figuring that out at some of the other lenders I work with. Um, that's a hard project to coordinate, let alone lend into. And you guys seem to have it. Like if you're, it's for anyone that's listening that is scaling their business. And if you're a veterinarian, a dentist, or a medical doctor, a physician, and you see that pile of dirt down the road and you say, hey, I think I can make that pile of dirt my 5,000, 7,000, 10,000 square foot facility of my dreams, and I'm ready for that type. If you're not talking to someone like Live Oak Bank and someone on Brandy's team, then you're probably missing out because they do those projects extremely well. That's a lot of effort and a lot of coordination. Like how do you do that? Like how do you do it?
All the kudos in the world to our ridiculously strong construction team. So we've got an entire construction operation here that's working on every single project that we go through. I think one of the biggest challenges for dentists, physicians, veterinarians when they come to us and they want to do this, 3, 5, 10,000 square foot ground up project, they've got a thought of what that price per square foot is, and I would like them to about triple whatever's in their head because they compare it to a residential build, and dental and vet is the highest price per square foot to build a small business in the country. Plumbing and electrical alone, it's just a different ballgame. And then when you talk about the intricacies of a ground up project, I mean, plans, permitting, zoning, what's happening with tap fees, how long this is actually going to take to get done, what the city is going to allow, what the municipality will allow. Vet practices or doggy daycare facilities, noise ordinance, the township revolting against you because they're worried about the smell in an area because they don't understand how these things work now. It's a lot. You really need to have someone, even if you don't work with Live Oak, I do think it's really beneficial to talk to someone like us on the front end, have us walk you through worst case scenario, big ticket, this is what we think this is going to look like all in, and then go from there. At least you've got a starting point and see if you can stomach it, dentist, physician, vet, and if a bank's going to be comfortable doing it, because it's a lot.
That's great. So again, another takeaway for our listeners is if you're having a conversation about ground up construction with your lender and your lender doesn't sound exactly like what Brandy just said, then you're working with the wrong lender, right? That level of sophistication on ground up construction will save you time, money, and effort because you're working with a bank that understands exactly what it takes and what you're trying to accomplish. So again, if you have that aspiration of doing that ground up construction, buying that huge building and fully blowing it out, you really got to work with a lender that understands what you're trying to do, has done it before. Don't be the guinea pig that the first deal they've ever done. And if your lender doesn't ask or sound like what Brandy just said, you're probably with someone that doesn't know what they're doing, and that could be very costly. So that's great. Brandy, that's fantastic. Can you just give two pieces of advice, right? I always ask leaders, and I'm gonna shift a little bit here because you are probably one of the most tenured and highest level people that we've had on thus far. Like you're managing director, like you're very fancy these days. Hard to get you on the podcast and a call because you're so busy. Can you give a piece of advice to other leaders, people in organizations? What was some of the things that you would say drove your success and got you to where you are today as a leader at a major lender, at a major bank, at a major company? Number one. So I'll start there, and then maybe a piece of advice for practitioners that are looking to scale.
Yeah, be a damn sponge and take in everything you possibly can from everyone above you, below you, beside you. You can learn from everybody top down within an organization, and I feel like I have had phenomenal mentors, and I shut my mouth and I did my job and I learned from others. You being one of them, Bill. I can't. There's no price tag to put on the education that I've gotten from the people that I've worked with who have been willing to just take me under their wing and teach me. And I think that comes with, you have to be ridiculously humble and just understand that what you don't know and where you can go from there. So and reach out for help. I don't think there's a dumb question. There are a lot of things about the SB, and the freaking SOP is giant. This Bible of a situation for government-backed loans. I don't know half of it. I mean, there's constantly changes to it. There is no point when I don't feel like I can reach out to someone and ask a question and try to understand, or I'm just forgetting one of the 17 billion rules to this world. You stay humble, ask questions, find mentors, and be a good person.
A sponge. I love that. Be a sponge. I'm going to interject there. When Wicklow grows and moves into pet care facility advisory towards the end of this year or next, you will be the reason. Like the only reason why I would feel comfortable even doing that is because of your experiences and your knowledge around that. So agreed. Be a sponge. Humility is a great asset. I had to learn that later in my career because I was not always the most humble individual. Still today, I struggle with that sometimes, but humility is a great lesson to be learned. And then be willing to ask questions. I think asking for help, understanding your blind spots is great. And just again, so happy to see where your career has moved into and what you're doing. You are really making an impact on the people around you and not just practitioners, but the people on your team, the people in the industries that you serve. So fantastic. That was great advice for anyone listening that is looking to grow in an organization. That's some gold right there. So then flip over to practitioners that are thinking about establishing or scaling. What's some advice you would give to someone who's listening saying, I gotta go buy that dirt and blow out this project?
Build a team and then trust your team and let them run. Let them run. Let them run? Yeah, let them run. Paralysis by analysis will kill every deal and will drive the physician, veterinarian, dentist insane. Figure out who you like, who you trust, and then trust them to actually do their jobs and to work with the other pieces of your team. Where I have seen the most successful projects has been when a dentist, physician, veterinarian figures out who they want to work with and then lets them run. The borrower is always in control. They always have the final approval. Nothing is being done without their sign-off. But I do think you've got to trust some experts in a lot of different areas. If you're looking to acquire a practice, they need to be talking to you, Bill. If they're doing a ground-up project, they've got to be on board with their lender, their CPA, their real estate broker, their freaking GC better be a rock star. And then you just let these people work for you and do their jobs and try as much as possible to stay out of their way to let it get done. But in that vein, you have to make sure you fully trust every member of your team. If there's someone that feels off to you or it's just not right, then get out and bring somebody else in. Because it's, especially for these ground up projects, you can be in this situation for a year, 2 years, going through the whole thing. You've got to like who you're working with and let them run.
Great advice. I call it, I like to say to people, like, it's about the collective. So if you have a blind spot in your team, so if you know that you're going to do this ground up construction project and you're buying that building and blowing it out, but you don't necessarily have a contractor in mind, well, that's when you leverage the team to get referrals to people that they know to be reputable. So if I was looking for a contractor to build this 10,000 square foot veterinary facility, one of the first people I would call is my Live Oak bank lender, because you've worked with all of the GCs and you know which ones have done a really good job and you know which ones are on the Live Oak Bank blacklist, which I'm sure exists, right?
It does. I just looked at it. The updated one, there's some red highlights in there for some GCs.
The red list. It's even worse. It's not a blacklist. It's a red list. So that's good. Excellent advice. Trust the team. Listen. Be involved, but also don't be so involved that you're stagnating the process. Get out of the way a little bit, but also know that you have final say, right? So if you get a set of plans and you don't love those plans and everyone else is telling you these plans are great, but there's something about that's missing that you really feel, very prescriptive about, that you need to have, then, announce your voice, make sure that you're involved and make sure that you get the practice in the hospital that you want. Great advice to someone that's looking to scale or establish. Fantastic. So this has been a great conversation. We're coming up to the end. And at the end, for you new listeners, I ask everyone about their retirement story because Wicklow was born. The name Wicklow Healthcare Advisory, the Wicklow, was born out of my retirement story because I realized that my business, helping practitioners exit ownership, either selling to another practitioner or selling to a DSO or corporate. My business was helping people retire, whether they were retiring immediately or funding that retirement through the sale of their business. It was about kind of the end of ownership, that exiting. So when I thought about my clients, I also started to think about like what I wanted out of my retirement when I finally, if I ever retire from doing what I do. And Wicklow is a place in Ireland that I visited with my family, that I visited personally before I had a family, and have always felt a great sense of belonging and really enjoyed my time there. So at some point, I'd love to have a place there. I have young kids, so probably a very long time away from me. But Wicklow is a place where I could see myself living out some of my golden years and enjoying. So I ask everyone that comes on, Brandy, what is your Wicklow? What's your retirement story? What's your dream there?
First of all, talking about retirement gives me heart palpitations. I think I'm going to have a very difficult time retiring.
Yes.
That just sounds like, I don't know, so final in the end. But if I have to retire at some point, I very much want to live a couple years sailing around the world. I don't want to be tethered to anything, and I want to fish as much as humanly possible in the most random parts of the world with some fish that nobody even knows exist. That's my
awesome.
Yeah. But I'm going to be like 97 by the time that happens, so I might fall
You got a lot of runway in that career you've built for yourself there, and a lot going on. And I'm sure Live Oak wants to have you around for a long time. So again, so happy to have you on. That's a great story. I knew that you'd fish. I knew that you have fished. Like I've seen pictures. Like you were, and not like throwing a pole at the end of the beach. Like I've seen some of the things that you've caught in photos that you've shared, but didn't realize that you were that passionate about it. So that's good to hear. It's always good to have a passion, and I know that you'll get there. If you want to sail around the world and fish, you've never not done anything you said you were going to do. So that's one of the things I always take away from you is if you say you're going to do it, I usually set my clock. I'm like, okay, so in 6 months, Brandy will be doing this, and you will be.
I'm going to need a captain though, because I don't know how to sail. Just FYI. So.
Well, you'll need a good partner. You'll need a good partner to figure out the sailing part. And listen, you can't sail and fish at the same time, right? So that's great. That's great. Well, listen, Brandy, it was fantastic having you on today, and I know how busy you are, and I really thank you for the time. And just if someone wanted to reach out that's listening, you'll have some information on the end if you're watching this on video. But for those that want to reach out to Live Oak Bank and your team, what's the easiest way to get a hold of someone at Live Oak to start that conversation?
If you go to our website, liveoak.com, liveoakbank.com, you can certainly scroll through and get our team's healthcare vet, and then reaching out to me directly, and I can either give you that contact information now, or you can put it up on the screen, or whatever you'd prefer to get a hold of me directly, and then I can get you connected with our team. We've got lenders throughout the country, dental medical vet, specific geography, and really looking to help out anywhere that they can.
That's awesome. So Brandy, thank you so much for coming on today. It was a great episode. I know people got a lot out of it. So thank you again, and have a good rest of your week, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks for having me, Bill.
You know every time we speak it's no apologies. This is Wicklow Healthcare Advisory, presenting industry insiders, brought by Bill Murray. He help you in a real hurry. From ownership to healthcare, he an advocate, teaching you how to buy and sell practices. From CPAs to attorneys, all guests here to help you with your goals. You never know who's on next. This is Wicklow Healthcare Advisory. Let's go.